All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the world of finance and figure out how auditors really know if a company's numbers are legit. You might be picturing someone buried in spreadsheets, but trust me, it's a lot more like a detective cracking a case. So, let's get our investigation started.
So, just think about it for a second. A company puts out its financial statements. Basically, it's telling a story with numbers. But how can we, or anyone, be sure that story is fact and not, fiction? How do you actually prove what's going on behind the scenes?
Well, this is exactly where the auditor comes in. But for today, let's stop thinking of them as just accountants. Let's think of them as financial detectives. Their one and only mission: to investigate a company's financial claims and uncover the real story.
And just like any good detective, they can't just rely on a hunch or what someone tells them. No way. They need cold, hard proof. And in the world of auditing, that proof, that key tool, is called audit evidence.
Okay, so what in the world are these clues we keep talking about? I mean, what actually counts as evidence when you're digging into the finances of a huge company? Let's get a really clear definition.
So here it is, the official textbook definition. Audit evidence is basically any piece of information the auditor uses to figure out what their final conclusion is going to be. It's the absolute foundation for their professional opinion on whether the numbers are true and fair. So, to put it back in our detective analogy, this is everything. It's the fingerprints, the witness statements, the security footage, all the proof that gets collected to build a solid case. It all leads up to that final verdict. Are the financials fairly stated, or are they materially misstated, which is just a fancy way of saying the numbers are wrong enough to mislead someone?
But here's the thing, and this is super important. A detective can't just use any old clue they happen to find on the street. There are rules, right? The evidence has to be strong, it has to be credible, and there's got to be enough of it. And guess what? It's the exact same story in auditing.
This right here is the golden rule. It comes straight from the official playbook, the International Standard on Auditing 500. And it all boils down to two little words that mean a whole lot: sufficient and appropriate. This is the standard, and you absolutely need both.
Let's break this down because it's crucial. Sufficient is all about the quantity. Did you collect enough clues? But appropriate is about quality. Are they the right clues? Think of it like this. Having 1,000 blurry, useless photos might be a sufficient number of pictures, but they're not appropriate for solving the case. One single, crystal-clear, verified bank statement is way better evidence. You have to have both quantity and quality.
So where does our financial detective even find these clues? Well, they really come from two main places. You've got the inside story from the company itself, and then you have the outside proof to see if that story actually holds up.
So first, there's all the internal evidence. This is the company's own data. We're talking about their general ledger, which is like the master log of every single financial transaction, or their internal worksheets and calculations. This is basically the company telling its own story from its own point of view. It's a super important starting point, but it is just a start.
Because, a good detective never, ever just takes someone's word for it. They need to corroborate it. They need that outside proof. This could be things like invoices from suppliers, contracts signed with customers, or even getting a direct confirmation from the company's bank. This is how you verify the inside story with independent sources, and that makes this type of evidence way more reliable.
Now, auditors don't just show up and start grabbing random files. That would be chaos. They are incredibly methodical. They create a detailed investigation plan to make sure they're gathering all this evidence efficiently and effectively.
And that plan really comes down to making 4 key decisions. First, what investigative techniques or procedures are they going to use? Second, what's the right sample size? I mean, they can't check every single transaction in a giant company, right? So how many is enough? Third, from that big pile, which specific items are they going to pick out and test? And finally, what's the best timing for all these tests? Every one of these decisions is critical.
Having this structured plan is what turns auditing from just a random search into a focused, systematic investigation. It's how the auditor builds their case, piece by piece, so they can be confident in their final opinion.
And just so you know why this matters so much, this evidence isn't just for the audit itself. The law actually requires companies to hold on to these records, these case files, for a minimum of 7 years. That means the proof has to be there, ready to be inspected long after the audit is over.
So there you have it. At its heart, an audit is just a methodical hunt for enough high-quality evidence. It's about piecing together clues from both inside and outside the company to paint a true picture of its finances. So that leaves me with one final question for you.
If you were the detective on a brand new case, what's the very first clue you would look for?